It was a typical Wednesday evening, and the world was tuned into one of the most anticipated live television events of the year, a highly publicized debate between two of the most powerful figures in tech, Elon Musk and Keanu Reeves. Both had agreed to appear on the global spotlight, a new talk show that aimed to tackle major societal issues, from artificial intelligence to space travel. The show promised fireworks. Elon Musk, the billionaire visionary behind SpaceX and Tesla, was notorious for his sharp wit and controversial remarks. Keanu Reeves, on the other hand, was known for his quiet humility and charm, but he had recently grown more vocal about his concerns surrounding the unchecked growth of artificial intelligence and its impact on humanity. The set was sleek, minimalist, with two high-backed chairs facing each other. Behind them, a massive screen flashed with the names of the guests, Elon Musk and Keanu Reeves. The host, Sarah Mitchell, was poised and calm, though her eyes betrayed a nervous energy. It wasn't every day you had two global icons on stage, and everyone was waiting for the sparks to fly. As the cameras rolled, Elon Musk sat down first, flashing his usual confident smile. Keanu followed, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with Musk's electric energy. The audience buzzed with excitement, knowing the battle of words was about to begin. Sarah opened the discussion by asking a simple question: "Gentlemen, where do you stand on the future of artificial intelligence, and how do we ensure it benefits humanity?" Elon leaned forward, eager to share his thoughts. AI is the future. It's not just an opportunity, it's a necessity. We're on the brink of achieving something greater than anything humanity has ever seen. It's going to revolutionize every industry, from healthcare to space exploration. Sure, there are risks, but the rewards far outweigh them. The audience murmured in agreement, but Keanu's face remained stoic. He slowly turned to Elon, and when it was his turn to speak, he did so with a surprising intensity. "Elon, I understand the vision," Keanu began, his voice measured but firm. "But you're playing with fire. You're not just talking about creating new technology. You're talking about creating something that could outthink us, outpace us. I've seen firsthand how unchecked ambition can lead to disasters. And if we're not careful, AI could become a force we can't control." The room fell silent. The tension between the two was palpable. Elon's confident smile faltered for just a moment, and for the first time, his eyes flashed with something uncharacteristic: doubt. The silence that followed Keanu's words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Elon Musk, always quick with a retort, blinked a few times before leaning back in his chair, his fingers tapping on the armrest. "Keanu," Elon began slowly, a hint of condescension in his tone, "I get it. You've made a career out of being the thoughtful guy. But you're missing the point. Humanity has always advanced by taking risks. If we didn't push the boundaries of science, we'd still be stuck in the dark ages. You can't stop progress." Keanu remained composed. "I'm not against progress. I'm against blind progress. When we rush ahead without thinking about the consequences, we often leave destruction in our wake. You, of all people, should understand that, Elon. You're the one who built an empire on going to space. But look at the cost of that. How many lives have been impacted by the risks you've taken, the environmental costs?" Elon's jaw clenched. "I'm aware of the risks. But the benefits far outweigh the negatives. Colonizing Mars, reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, it's all part of the bigger picture. We're not talking about creating AI for the sake of creating it. We're talking about unlocking the potential to solve problems that no one else can. AI is a tool, not a monster." Keanu's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, it seemed like he was considering his next words carefully. "A tool, sure," he said, his voice calm but with a weight to it. "But what happens when that tool turns on us? What happens when AI no longer needs us, when it decides we're obsolete? We've seen glimpses of that in science fiction. But this is real life, Elon. And we're moving too fast." Elon smiled, the confidence returning to his face. "That's a fear-based argument, Keanu. You can't live in fear of what might happen. You can't stop innovation because you're afraid of the unknown. That's not how we move forward. We can control it. Keanu leaned forward, locking eyes with Ilon. You can't control something that you don't fully understand. You've built a system that could potentially evolve beyond your ability to manage it. And when that happens, it's not just your problem, it's everyone's problem. The room held its breath. Elon's smirk began to falter as Keanu's words took root. But just when it seemed like the debate would spiral into a heated exchange, Sarah Mitchell interjected, trying to steer the conversation back to a more diplomatic tone. Let's try to focus on potential solutions, gentlemen, she said, her voice a little more strained than usual. But Keanu wasn't finished. There are no solutions until we acknowledge the risks, he said softly, but with a finality that seemed to hang in the air. And there's one thing I've learned in my life, Elon. Some things shouldn't be left to chance. The crowd was now on the edge of their seats, hanging on every word. The debate was taking a turn no one had expected. And as the tension in the room escalated, it became clear that Keanu wasn't just here to discuss ideas, he was here to make a point. A point that, in the coming moments, would leave everyone in shock. The air in the studio grew thick as the tension between Keanu and Elon escalated. It was as if the debate had moved beyond ideas and into something more personal, more visceral. Keanu's quiet intensity was undeniable, and though Elon tried to maintain his typical calm, there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Sarah Mitchell, sensing that the conversation was teetering on the edge of something explosive, asked a question meant to diffuse the moment. Keanu, she said, turning to him, you've raised some serious concerns. But what do you propose we do? How can we ensure AI is developed responsibly while still moving forward? Keanu paused, allowing the question to settle. He took a slow breath before speaking. We need to slow down, he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of experience. We need regulation. Not just a few guidelines but a global framework that ensures AI development doesn't spiral out of control. We need to prioritize the well-being of humanity, not just profit. And we need to create checks and balances, real ones, not just theoretical ones. Elon shifted in his seat, a slight smirk appearing on his lips. Regulation? You can't be serious, Keanu. Regulations stifle progress. They slow down innovation. We can't afford that. Keanu's eyes remained fixed on Elon. Innovation without control is chaos. You know that better than anyone. A brief silence settled between them. And then, in a move no one saw coming, Keanu leaned forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. You're so busy looking at the stars, Elon, Keanu said, his gaze piercing, that you're forgetting what's happening here on Earth. And what's happening is that we're creating a monster, one that we can't control. You might think you can tame it, but mark my words, the consequences will be catastrophic. The room was dead quiet. Even Sarah Mitchell, who had been trying to moderate the discussion, was frozen in place. Elon was staring at Keanu now, his face hardening. He was no longer smiling. The easy confidence he exuded earlier had evaporated, and in its place was something more dangerous. His eyes flickered toward the cameras as if he were calculating his next move, but he didn't speak. Then, with a suddenness that startled the audience, Keanu's voice rang out once more. Elon, you've got it all wrong. You think you're a visionary, but you're blind to the risks. You're playing God with technology, and that never ends well. Keanu's words echoed in the studio like thunder, and the camera zoomed in, catching the flicker of disbelief across Elon's face. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, in a shocking turn of events, Elon stood up. The studio lights flickered, and the audience gasped as he turned toward Keanu, his expression hard and cold. But before he could say anything, Keanu rose from his chair too, and the two men stood there, facing off. It was a standoff. The crowd held its breath. Then, in one swift motion, Keanu did something no one expected. He turned to the host and said, "Elon talks a lot about being in control, but right now, he's not. He's not controlling this conversation. He's not controlling the narrative. He's not controlling his own ego. And that's exactly the problem with tech right now, it's run by people who think they can control everything." The words landed with the force of a bombshell. Elon's face turned an angry shade of red, his fists clenching at his sides. "Keanu," he said, his voice low but filled with tension, "you don't know what you're talking about." But Keanu's reply was immediate and powerful, "I know exactly what I'm talking about." And with that, the unthinkable happened. Keanu, in a calm, deliberate motion, walked toward Elon, closing the distance between them. The tension in the room reached its peak. Everyone expected an eruption. But what happened next shocked the world. Keanu, without warning, placed his hand firmly on Elon's shoulder. "You're wrong," Keanu said, his voice now quiet but unyielding. "And the world needs to know that." In that split second, something shifted. The cameras captured the moment in stunning detail, and for a brief, surreal second, the entire world seemed to pause. The moment Keanu placed his hand on Elon's shoulder, it felt like the room itself had taken a collective breath. The entire studio seemed to freeze. The audience, captivated by the unexpected turn of events, could hardly believe what they were witnessing. The intensity between the two men was palpable. For the first time, Elon Musk, the tech mogul who had dominated headlines for years, looked visibly rattled. For a second, it felt like the world was on the verge of an explosive confrontation, but instead, Keanu's gesture seemed almost calm. It wasn't a challenge, it wasn't an accusation. It was simply a statement of truth. A quiet, unwavering certainty that sent a ripple through the entire debate. Elon blinked rapidly, his gaze shifting from Keanu's hand to his eyes. The audience remained silent, their anticipation hanging thick in the air. And then, as if the weight of Keanu's words had pierced through the hardened exterior Elon so often displayed, he spoke, his voice strained. "You don't get it," Elon muttered, pulling away slightly, his posture tense. "This isn't about control. It's about saving humanity. We're too late to go back. AI isn't just a tool, it's our future. It's the only way forward. You want regulation? You'll stifle innovation, and we'll fall behind." Keanu stood tall, unmoving. He wasn't intimidated by Elon's words or the sudden change in the atmosphere. His voice was steady, resolute. "Maybe you're right, Elon. Maybe we can't go back. But you're talking about a future that's built on the backs of our worst fears. You're playing with forces you don't understand. And one day, those forces will turn on you. Or worse, they'll turn on us all." Elon's eyes flickered with a mix of disbelief and anger. "So, what now, Keanu?" His tone had shifted, but it was still edged with a challenge. "You think you can just stop progress with words?" Keanu took a step back, his expression calm. "No. But I can make people think. And that's exactly what I intend to do. You're not invincible, Elon. None of us are." The studio was so still it felt like time itself had paused. The cameras continued to roll, capturing every word, every gesture. This wasn't just a debate, it had become something far more significant. It was a confrontation between two men, two ideologies, two visions of the future. And as the words settled into the air, something unexpected happened, something that would echo through the media and the world in a way no one could have predicted. In a final, dramatic moment, Keanu turned to the camera, his voice now carrying the weight of something far more than just a debate. It was as if he were speaking directly to the world. "Don't let anyone tell you what the future will be. Don't let anyone play God with your future. We are not passive observers in this story, we are its authors. And it's up to us to make sure we don't write our own doom." The silence that followed was deafening. Elon stood there, his mouth slightly open, stunned into silence. The confrontation had taken a turn that no one had anticipated, and in that moment, it was clear that Keanu Reeves had made his point. He had not only taken Elon down a peg, but he had turned the tide of the debate in an entirely new direction. Sarah Mitchell, still in shock from the exchange, tried to regain control of the situation, her voice breaking the silence. "Well, that's certainly a powerful statement, Keanu." But before she could continue, Elon, now visibly shaken, spoke up, his voice quieter than before, but with a bite. "You've made your point, Keanu. But don't think for a second that I'm backing down." Keanu's reply was simple and profound. "I never asked you to." And with that, the stage was set. What started as a standard debate had transformed into a global moment, a confrontation that would go down in history as one of the most shocking TV events ever broadcast. Keanu Reeves had silenced Elon Musk in front of millions of viewers, and in doing so, had sparked a worldwide conversation about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the future of AI, and the power of human agency. The aftermath of the debate was nothing short of a media frenzy. Within minutes of the broadcast ending, social media exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Keanu shut down Elon and hashtag AI showdown trended worldwide. Clips from the debate went viral, replayed over and over, as people marveled at how Keanu Reeves had not only stood his ground but had managed to silence Elon Musk in a way few could have predicted. News outlets were abuzz. Political commentators, tech analysts, and even celebrities weighed in. The world had witnessed a rare moment where a figure from Hollywood, often thought of as apolitical and unassuming, had taken on one of the most powerful figures in the tech world, and had won. But behind the scenes, the ripples of that confrontation were just beginning. Elon Musk, ever the strategist, wasn't the type to back down from a challenge. In the days that followed, his PR team worked overtime to craft a response. The billionaire gave a series of interviews, trying to downplay the incident, but it was clear his confidence had taken a hit. His responses were sharper, less polished, as if he was trying to regain control of the narrative. "Keanu's approach is dramatic, but it's based on fear, not facts," Elon said in one interview. "We need to embrace progress. We can't afford to halt our advancements because of hypothetical worst-case scenarios. The future is happening, whether we're ready or not." But the damage had already been done. The public's perception was shifting. Keanu, on the other hand, remained mostly silent in the wake of the debate. He gave only one statement to the press, and it was measured, as always. "I didn't want to make it personal," Keanu said, his tone calm. "I just think it's time we take a step back and reflect. Innovation is important, but so is responsibility. If we don't keep that balance, we could find ourselves in a place we didn't intend to be." This single, restrained statement resonated with people across the globe. While Elon's words continued to echo with his usual bravado, Keanu's quiet conviction seemed to hit a nerve with many who were uncomfortable with the unchecked growth of technology. His message, one of caution, reflection, and responsibility, found a receptive audience in those who had been growing wary of the tech giant's unchecked power. And then, just when it seemed like the world was settling into the aftermath of the debate, something unexpected happened. A group of influential tech leaders and AI ethicists, many of whom had been silent on the matter before, issued a public letter. It was addressed to the global community and was signed by dozens of thought leaders in the field, calling for the immediate formation of a global AI regulation body. The letter stated, "We, the undersigned, believe that the current trajectory of AI development must be reconsidered. While innovation is essential for the future of humanity, we must not lose sight of the ethical implications of these advancements. We call for an open and honest discussion, led by all sectors of society, to determine a course of action that prioritizes human welfare and the long-term survival of our species." The letter was a direct call to action, and it didn't take long for the media to connect the dots. Keanu Reeves had made a powerful point, one that had shaken the foundations of the tech world. His words had resonated so deeply that they had ignited a global movement. As news of the letter spread, the debate around AI ethics and regulation became a hot-button issue worldwide. Politicians, activists, and tech leaders all jumped into the conversation, each offering their perspective. But no matter where the conversation went, one thing remained clear: the world had woken up to the consequences of unchecked technological advancement. The following week, Keanu was invited to speak at a major global conference on technology and ethics. It was an opportunity that seemed almost surreal, considering the quiet actor had become a voice of reason in a debate dominated by billionaires and tech moguls. The world was listening, and Keanu had more to say. When he took the stage, he wasn't met with the usual Hollywood fanfare. Instead, he was greeted by a room full of people who had come to hear his perspective on a subject far beyond acting. As he walked up to the podium, Keanu took a moment to look out at the crowd. "I've been asked why I spoke out," Keanu began, his voice calm yet compelling. "And the truth is, I didn't speak out because I have all the answers. I spoke out because we need to start asking the right questions." The room was silent as Keanu continued, "The world is changing, faster than any of us can keep up with. But we can't allow ourselves to be swept away by the tide. We have to be the ones steering the ship. We have to be the ones who decide what kind of future we want." In that moment, it was clear that the debate between Keanu and Elon Musk had become something much bigger than just a television showdown. It had sparked a global conversation about the future of technology, human agency, and the responsibility of those who wield power. And no matter how the story ended, one thing was certain: Keanu Reeves had forever altered the trajectory of the conversation surrounding AI. As Keanu's words echoed through the hall, the world was listening. His speech at the Global Technology Conference became the spark that ignited a firestorm of discussions across every continent. It was clear that his calm, measured approach to the debate had not only shocked the tech world but had also awakened the public to the consequences of a future governed by unchecked technology. Elon Musk, who had once stood as the unchallenged champion of innovation, now found himself in an unfamiliar position, on the defensive. His empire, built on the promise of progress and boundless potential, was now being scrutinized like never before. It wasn't just Keanu's words that had caused the shift. It was the global wave of support that had followed them. The tech industry, once a fortress of certainty, was beginning to show cracks. Musk's latest ventures, while still monumental, had started to face intense public scrutiny. The online conversations were no longer dominated by praise for his vision, they were filled with discussions of ethics, regulation, and the moral responsibility that came with such immense power. Keanu's call for reflection, for a more deliberate approach to AI and technology, had reached a critical mass. And so, after months of public back and forth and mounting pressure from governments, tech leaders, and the public, Elon Musk found himself at a crossroads. In an unprecedented move, he called a press conference, one that would be broadcast live to millions. The conference began with the usual fanfare. Elon walked up to the podium, his usual confident demeanor intact. But there was a subtle shift in his posture. His expression, usually a mask of certainty, now seemed almost weary. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady but tinged with something new. "I've spent my life pushing the boundaries of what's possible. We've created companies, technologies, and dreams that have changed the world. But I'll admit, there are things I have not fully considered." The room fell silent. The audience, including tech journalists, politicians, and industry insiders, leaned in. "I've been so focused on progress," Elon continued, "that I failed to realize the importance of balance. We can't just rush ahead without thinking about the impact on society as a whole. We've seen the dangers of unchecked growth, and we have to be responsible for the consequences of our actions." The crowd murmured, unsure whether they were hearing the real Elon Musk or a carefully crafted PR move. But as the press conference continued, it became evident that something fundamental had shifted in Musk's thinking. He spoke of the need for global regulation of AI, the importance of ethics in tech development, and the need for collaboration between tech giants, governments, and the public. "We're entering a new age," he said, his voice more thoughtful than before. "And in this age, we can't afford to let our ambitions blind us to the risks. Keanu Reeves made me see that. The world needs to have a voice in the direction we take. It's not enough to think we can solve every problem with technology. We must listen, truly listen, to the concerns of humanity. The press conference ended with a stark contrast to the confident, sometimes arrogant tone Elon Musk had used in previous years. There were no grand announcements or boasts. Instead, there was a call to action for a new kind of collaboration. A call to rethink the role of technology in shaping the future. For Keanu, the response from Musk was exactly what he had hoped for. He didn't want to tear down Musk or the vision behind his companies, he simply wanted to make the world see that progress and responsibility could not be mutually exclusive. In the weeks that followed, global leaders began to take the call for AI regulation seriously. The European Union, the United States, and China all began drafting new legislation aimed at ensuring ethical AI development. New international organizations dedicated to tech ethics sprang up, and the conversation Keanu had started spread into boardrooms, legislatures, and living rooms across the world. But the impact of that fateful debate went far beyond policy. It sparked a cultural shift, a shift in the way people viewed the relationship between humanity and technology. People began to question their reliance on AI in daily life, from algorithms that determined what they saw on social media to the potential of AI in military applications. Keanu, ever the quiet figure in the background, watched as the conversation evolved. He never sought the limelight. But his simple, clear message had resonated in ways that no one had expected. And as for Elon Musk, the world could see that, while he still championed the vision of space exploration, clean energy, and technological innovation, he had learned something important that night, the importance of humility, of listening, and of sharing the future with the world rather than trying to control it. In the end, the debate wasn't just about who won or lost. It wasn't about the clash of two powerful figures. It was about a pivotal moment in history, a moment when the world paused, reflected, and decided to take control of its own future, with a bit more caution, a bit more humility, and a lot more responsibility. And as Keanu Reeves watched the world change around him, he couldn't help but think that, maybe, just maybe, this was what true leadership looked like. Not the loudest voice in the room, but the one that spoke the truth when it was needed the most.